All right, hello everybody. My name is Rocco Cilio, and I wanted to make sure I welcome all our guests to this brief presentation. We got some exciting information to share on the future of our business here with LegalShield. I am coming to everybody from the Garden State out here in New Jersey, and I get the opportunity to introduce our guest presenter to be able to share some of the details on the direction of where we're heading here. None other than Patrick Shaw, who is the Northwest Regional General Manager for our company in that entire Northwest region. Has had a ton of success over the years with the business, one of the top income earners, and has just helped so many other people have success. And now with the direction that we're going and the technology advancements that our company is making, we're getting ready to explode this thing. So I'm going to get myself out of the way and turn it over to you, Mr. Shaw, to take over the presentation from here, sir.
Well, Rocco, I certainly appreciate it and excited about this presentation. For 20 years now, I've been part of LegalShield. LegalShield is a 40-year-old company, and why we've done extraordinarily well as a company and an organization, the best is yet to come. And you'll see why during this overview of LegalShield. And we're going to talk a lot about the future. Steve Jobs said that it's easy to connect the dots of the past, but it's a little more difficult when you look forward. There is a lot to learn from what companies are doing today. And so we're going to visit, as we open this presentation, we're going to visit the past a little bit. But before I do that, there are 4 simple principles I think we can all agree with that are important in business today. And the companies that are exploding leverage all 4 of these. And number 1, they're incredibly simple. The companies of the future and today, the companies that are succeeding, it's simple. It's simple for the individual user. The concept is simple. Number 2 is it's disruptive. Look at what Uber did in the taxi industry. They disrupted an old industry. And the legal industry, by the way, is one of the largest, oldest industries in history. It's massive, and honestly, it's broken. It needs to be changed, how legal services are accessed and delivered. Number 3 is people want to be part of something noble. Life rewards purpose. Find a way to just go make a difference, and it's amazing how you can be rewarded financially. And number 3 is it's not easily replicated. You know, over 40 years, LegalShield has built a proprietary network of attorneys. It is not easy to replicate. So with that in mind, let's look at the past a little bit and talk about mistakes companies made and the mistakes they didn't make. Number 1, Blockbuster. Now, we all know what happened. Netflix happened. And all the different video channels, Hulu, Apple TV, they all took that space. Yet Blockbuster had the opportunity. They had all the connections, the channels of distribution. They could have capitalized on the rights they owned, but they missed the window. Kodak. What's fascinating is the digital photography took the traditional industry and put it on its head. And everything became digital. And the individual, Steve Saxon, in the mid-70s, he worked for Kodak, and they had him invent digital photography. And the first time he presented it to them, they thought, hey, that's not really, where we want to be right now. And he stayed with Kodak, and he developed the idea and extended it, presented it to them again, but they had too much leverage. They had too much revenue, and they had their hands in the different areas of traditional photography, and they wouldn't let go. And as a result, they went out of business. Now, Instagram, every form, Facebook, everybody's using digital photography today. The past, CDs. You walked in a store, you picked a musician you liked, you wanted one song, but you had to buy the entire album. Today, for 99 cents, you can do it on iTunes. You're starting to get the idea, I imagine. Hotels, what has happened there in the overnight stay arena? Airbnb puts people in more rooms per night than any hotel in the world, than any hotel chain in the world. They have effectively become the largest booker of nights in the world. This was an average picture in New York City only 5 years ago. And what happened? Uber happened. Now, the reality is they don't own a single vehicle, really. And it was disruptive. In the past, when people broke down, AAA was there. Now, I mentioned AAA for a specific reason, because AAA was actually a company that saw the writing on the wall. They knew they had to leverage technology, and today they make that incredibly easy. Well, our past in the legal industry, yes, there's a massive need, but we've been somewhat archaic in how we've made people aware of that need. The legal industry, again, is one of the largest, oldest industries in history. On the west side of the Supreme Court building, it says equal justice under law. The average person does not have access to the legal system. In 1972, Harlan Stonecipher started LegalShield. A simple automobile accident in 1969 that he was not at fault for, but he was sued for. And he felt the injustice of that and didn't want anybody else to feel that same injustice. So he started LegalShield. And for almost 4 decades now, we've had a membership card. And that membership card allowed you to pick up the phone and call your attorney and get all the benefits we'll talk about momentarily. But the reality is we weren't taking advantage of the future. We were purchased by MidOcean Partners for $651 million. And Jeff Bell is our CEO. And you can see his associations, different organizations that he's worked for in his career. Things like Xbox and Ford and Microsoft. He understands technology, saw the writing on the wall, and that is exactly what is happening. The future has arrived with LegalShield. We have all the tools and systems today to make people aware, to share the message, to access the legal system through the different apps that we will share with you, where you can literally at the push of a button, you can call your law firm. You don't have to remember the number. If you have your smartphone with you, it's a push of a button, and you can get unlimited consultation. You can call 5 days a week, 8 hours a day for any questions that you have. Our system, our law firms will write letters and phone calls on your behalf. 1 letter or phone call per issue, but as many issues as you have. So when my wife and I got a $750 hospital bill that they had agreed to pay, it was as simple as calling the law firm. They wrote the letter and the situation got fixed. You know, there's a saying, when people feel the heat, they see the light. And having access to an attorney, and now an access to an attorney via push of a button, it changes the game. How about speeding tickets? You get a speeding ticket and you go to the app, you take a picture of the ticket, and it goes directly to your law firm so they can represent you and work to keep the points off the license. Now, obviously, as part of the LegalShield membership, your attorney's going to work to keep the points off the license with no additional fee. So you're not sending that ticket in and then you get a bill. 1 month, I received 2 traffic tickets. It was almost 10 points. It was 10 points. You can only have 10, 12 points in a single year in Colorado, where I live. So I was a little nervous about it. Now, we weren't able just to take the picture right there of the tickets, but what happened was an attorney showed up, represented me, got the majority of the points off my license, saved me $500 or $300, in fees, and I paid nothing for that attorney. That's the power of LegalShield. How about preparing a will? In most states, that's $1,000 to a $2,500 value for a husband and a wife. It's a medical durable power of attorney. 85% of people don't have a will. And if you can show them on a simple app how they can begin that process, but they don't have to pay the $1,000 to the $2,500. How about button 4, member services? You can get feedback and you can get help. So you can call LegalShield directly, not the law firm itself, but in this case, you can call LegalShield to find out how to use your membership. If you have any challenges, whatever the case may be, it's all available via the app. emergency legal access. Again, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, this service is available. So if you have a son or daughter, 17 years old, and they're at a party, and maybe they drove a friend out that they didn't know well, and turns out that friend had items that they shouldn't have at a party, and the police show up and they start asking questions, and your innocent child goes, yeah, I drove him here, he's a friend of mine, and they don't know better, right? Would it give you peace of mind to know that they could simply hit a button on their phone and be in touch with an attorney to invoke their Miranda rights? You have a right to remain silent. You have a right to talk to an attorney, but what attorney will you call at 11 o'clock at night? That's the power of LegalShield. Identity theft is exploding. It's the largest white-collar crime in history. Not only do we do all of this via the app for legal, we do it for identity theft as well. With a push of a button, you can get access to the most comprehensive identity theft product on the market today. And this service will not only give you help if something shows up on your credit report, but they'll do full restoration. You sign a one-page limited power of attorney, and they'll restore your credit back to the original state prior to the identity theft with a $5 million policy to cover you, which frankly you won't really need because of the quality of the service. Now, we have an opportunity right now. We sit in front what we think is going to be one of the most disruptive models in history because the legal industry is massive. And again, look at marketing and look at what we're currently doing and how you have an opportunity to profit. How did you hear about Uber? Or how did you hear about Facebook or Spotify? Can we agree that somebody told you about those services? How about LegalShield and ID Shield? Well, the reality is we're a word of mouth business. You can share that message with people, but today it's becoming easier than ever. You've got people that you know that need our services. Currently, we have 4 million people that use the LegalShield service, but the market is massive. We still sit at less than 2% market penetration. And you may say, well, why are they using this model, right? Why are they giving me an opportunity to profit instead of using traditional advertising? I mean, we're a $500 million company, right? Why would they go to individuals like you and I? TV commercials work. Well, the reality is it's old school. People aren't watching commercials on TV anymore. They're on their phones. Or the reality is they're on Hulu and they're on Netflix and they're on Apple TV and they're not even watching the recorders, or they have a basic recorder from their cable company and they record the shows and don't watch the commercials during the football game. Why not radio? Well, most people are on some form of music station like Pandora. They're not listening to traditional radio. And when the commercial comes up, they're skipping it. Why not billboards? Well, there's a lot of people on their phone. Okay, we're just kidding. Don't text and drive. But you know some of that's true. People aren't paying attention to traditional advertising in the same way. Now, what's the difference between Facebook and Uber? Well, Facebook took what? Maybe 7-10 years to really explode and become a household name. And how long did Uber take? I remember presentations, Rocco, I was doing only 2 years ago, and I'd stand in a room of 100 people and say, hey, how many people have heard of Uber? And there'd be 5 or 6 people maximum, usually 1 or 2, depending on what part of the country I was in. Today, the entire country knows who Uber is. Whether they've taken one or not, they're all aware. What's the difference? Uber paid people to share the story. They said, look, if you refer our company, we'll give a credit to your friend and we'll give you a credit for sharing Uber with other people. And what is LegalShield doing? Well, we're giving people an opportunity to be compensated through this extraordinary model for simply sharing the word. And through the technology and the apps that are available And obviously, we can't get into great detail on this call today for the sake of time and brevity, but the apps are extraordinary. To be able to give somebody a free app where they can pull down documents, they can autofill those documents and get access absolutely free is extraordinary. And then if they decide to buy the membership on their own, they hit a button and you get credit. So what do we have to do? Simply share apps with people. So I've got Rocco Cilio, the individual who introduced me. He's got one of the fastest growing organizations in the entire country because he's been leveraging the technology that has recently been launched. He was quick on the uptake. He understood the concept, and he's going to share some of the compensation with you. So Rocco, great having you on the call, my friend.
Thanks, Patrick. And, you know, at your presentation there was spot on. And one of the things that we need to pay attention to is all these companies that you mentioned, whether it was Spotify, Uber, Facebook, they took advantage of an app-based economy. And that's all we are doing now with LegalShield. That's how we disrupt the legal industry. And we need to start out by creating an account. We can do that so we can be registered to be able to have direct deposits paid to us instead of credits being paid to us. Our CEO, Jeff Bell, has come up with a formula that makes it a better opportunity to be able to share the LegalShield message with people and have them download our apps onto their phone so they can be protected with the services that are included there. So what we want to make sure is that once we have somebody set up as an associate, they need to understand that they can actually share this app with folks, have them download it on their phone, and immediately be in position to be able to receive up to $100 for each and every download that they're able to get a new member aboard. After that, they can progress through our compensation plan by just doing sheer volume. And if they're able to get 6 folks to download our apps onto their phone, the LegalShield and ID Shield, we'll pay them up to $100 for each one of those new members to our service. From there, they have the ability to receive a higher level of compensation for future downloads. So the shorter way that somebody can take care of doing that and get to what we call our senior associate level is not just by having folks who download the apps for service, but also folks that finding others that want to spread the message as well. It's the best form of marketing that goes on in the marketplace now. We already covered that, but we can actually allow somebody get a shortcut to our senior associate level in the compensation plan when they can find another business partner that's interested in sharing the message. So in that instance, there would only need to be 3 downloads and one other person that opens up a new account to be able to be registered to receive commissions for referring out the apps as well. You can progress through our compensation plan even further, reaching what we call our manager level with more volume. That can happen, and you could earn up to $140 on the same number of individual downloads. So for each person that purchases the LegalShield and ID Shield, you can be paid $140. Again, that can be done through any of your own personal production, as well as being in a position where you have an organization that starts to grow out from underneath of you. And you can actually see here that there's a spread paid when you start to develop a little bit of what we call a team. Now, understand that when you are in a position to be able to spread a message like this, we call it an override. And it's simply the difference between your compensation level and the person who you helped get started who's sharing the services as well. Understand this. When you are part of Uber and their credit program or their referring service, that money is paid back and forth to both the individual who's going to be taking that first ride and you for introducing that individual for that. But that's where those credits stops. With this business, we have the ability to keep growing out multiple tiers, and you could start to create significant override compensation. The business starts to take on a life of its own. That's what LegalShield has done for years, and now through the app-based economy that we have, we put that on steroids. So after achieving the manager level, you can go all the way up to what we call our director position, where for each download you can earn $190. Now, what's important to know about that is as the organization underneath you starts to grow out, you can create more of a spread for each of those downloads, and a manager might be earning $140 underneath of you, but that gives you a $50 override in compensation. Now, as the model continues to develop, those overrides start to add up. And if somebody was able to, if you had a group of folks that were able to just get 12 downloads in 1 month, you would earn $600 in override compensation. That's for simply being a brand advocate and sharing the message. So let's look a little bit further into what the compensation can do, like here. As you can progress, and now if that goes from 12 in a month down to 12 per week, now you can start looking at mortgage payments being paid, $2,400 a month. It can start to really take on a life of its own, and you could start achieving the top levels in our company, what we call executive director position, which will pay out up to $280 for each of the LegalShield and ID Shield downloads. Now that's significant, but what is just as equally as significant and probably more important is the ability to earn those overrides that can now accumulate up to $140 for each new members that come aboard for our ID Shield and LegalShield services. As you start to create leverage for yourself, you find out that you wind up with the rewards of traditional business ownership without all the traditional headaches that come along with it. And there are plenty of people out there, we know for sure, without hesitation, that people need to have access to our services. Now, if you're in a position where you're able to get to the executive director level in our compensation plan, and your organization of managers is doing about 12 memberships per week, look at the compensation. You're up well over $6,000 a month, approaching $7,000 a month, and it'll be time to start rethinking the current job, because the most important thing that we want to share with you, this is all done around your schedule as you see fit. We can do this business around your life, and next thing you know, you now have the time to be able to do other things and invest back into your business. So over $7,000 a month, you'll start to reconsider this as a long-term business, and we'll explain why here in a second with our residual component. And I don't want to freak anybody out by saying if you're able to get a group of managers to do one per day at the executive director position, that would equal $50,000 a month. But here's what I do want everybody to know is that we have examples of that happening in our company prior to this revolution of the mobile app technology, of folks that were just out there sharing the message traditionally through meetings and in-person presentations. Well, again, now we've been put on steroids, and we're going to go even further from there. So the part that I want to transition back over to you here, Patrick, is I want to set this up properly for you. With those other businesses that you can represent and be a brand and help spread the message about the mobile app technology and the revolutions that happen there, it's linear, meaning that people will get their credits, or they'll get their spiff for sharing the technology with other people and getting the brand out there, the brand awareness out there. Well, Jeff Bell, our CEO, has taken things a step further and given each of us ownership interest in a book of business that can pay us residually for lifetime. You see, everything that we've seen up to this point is just first-year compensation on these memberships. But for each one of those members that stay on the books for years and years and years, and Mr. Shaw, you'll be able to speak better to that because you've been around in this business a lot longer than I have and have experienced the strength of what it means to be able to get a piece of that residual income of repeat business that stays on the books for extended period of time. So I'm going to turn it over to you here to talk a little bit about the residual component of being a LegalShield representative.
And I really do find it to be the absolute best part, Rocco. And let me ask you this, is what do all these people have in common, right? And you can add to this every great entrepreneur, every person that maybe has built a chain of franchises as an example, or they own a lot of real estate. You see, they have residual income. They've built some kind of business that pays them continuous income even when they are not working. Michael Jordan, every time a pair of Nikes were sold, he got paid, right? That was just the nature of it. And the more shoes he marketed, a lot of by being one of the greatest players in history, right? The more he was paid. Even when he was on a golf course playing golf, he was still being paid. In LegalShield, when people purchase our membership, And we get more and more people to download apps to find out about LegalShield. And when they're ready, really permission-based marketing, you've made it so simple for them when they're ready to purchase our membership by leveraging all the technology and the apps that we have available, you're going to get paid. And the more apps you place, the more memberships you place, the more you're going to be paid, even when you're sitting on a beach somewhere. Now that is extraordinary. So let's recap, right? The future. What is the future? It's got to be simple, disruptive, noble, and not easily replicated. The trends, the past and the future, we can learn from them. In the past, you can either go out of business or you can reinvent yourself and take advantage of the future. Look, frankly, the taxi industry could have done a lot about this, but they didn't. They held on to the past. AAA is a great example of a company that did not. Marketing is not done through traditional media of TV, radio, commercials, billboards. It's word of mouth. Influencers are powerful, and we're all influencers. We have people we know and relationships with those folks. And if we can deliver a message that helps make their life easier when they're ready, we don't need salespeople. We need folks that are zealots about good ideas, and we will pay handsomely for that. We talked about residual income. My wife and I, for more than 18 years now, have received almost all of those years, except the first year, I made $55,000 in income. The second year was $125,000. And in the majority of all that since is a multiple six-figure income, and a very, very significant multiple six-figure income. How is that possible? Because our compensation is extraordinary. We pay not only upfront commissions, you can earn overrides immediately when your team shares the story. And you can receive residual income on both of those activities of commission and overrides. It's an incredible opportunity. So we're excited. You look at Uber, the world's largest taxi company, and they don't own vehicles. Airbnb, they don't own real estate. Facebook, they create no real content, right? Instagram, they don't sell a camera. Netflix doesn't lay cables. Right? And Amazon, really, it would be proper to say they don't manufacture, right? And how is it? They're some of the largest companies in the world today. The same reason that LegalShield, you see, we don't own the attorneys. Now we have a network and we're connecting you with some of the best attorneys across the country. And we built this proprietary network that is very difficult for anybody to try and replicate because we built it over 40 years. But now with technology, we can connect people to law firms to fill their needs faster than any time in history, even though we don't own the law firm. It's an extraordinary model. It's gotten us to $500 million, and it's going to take us to a multi-billion-dollar company, and we need help. This just makes sense. And for $99 to start an account, we encourage you to get with the person that introduced you and make sure that you get your questions answered. So thank you for being on. Thanks for listening. And we look forward to talking to you as a partner with us in LegalShield. Bye-bye now.